Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hollywood Lot Life, where we explore the ins and outs of the elusive entertainment industry. If you've ever dreamed of working in Hollywood or making it as a studio executive, then this is the podcast for you. This show is brought to you both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'm really excited. I've got my good friend Karla, and before we jump in with her, I want to give you a little did you know? So, did you know that the host of Wheel of Fortune, Pat Sajak, started his career working as a weatherman for the local LA CBS News? And Who Wants to Be a Millionaire actually originated in the UK, while Deal or No Deal was first developed in the Netherlands. Many game shows offer large cash prizes or other valuable rewards to contestants. To protect themselves from financial risk of a contestant winning a big prize, producers often take out insurance policies to cover the cost of the prize. So, today you might be wondering, okay, those are all great facts, but why are you talking about them? Well, I've got my great friend Karla who works in game show development. So I thought, before she came on, I'd give a few fun facts about game shows. So, without further ado, Karla started her career with Sony Pictures, working actually interning at Screen Gems, and then jumped over to Supplier Diversity, and now is in game show development. So, Karla, welcome in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That
of
is such
course.
a nice intro. You make me feel grandeur. I don't know. And I'm not.
Oh no, you definitely are. You definitely needed that amazing intro.
Oh, thank you, Jackson.
So, what would you say is like your official title at Sony Pictures?
I'm an executive assistant, actually creative executive assistant for the game show development. So essentially, I help assist and coordinate anything that our team needs, whether it be, setting up, just helping my bosses and my supervisors go to like a picture house, go to ADR, setting meetings with different networks, setting meetings with producers, giving creative input, helping do different cuts, giving notes. So anything that my boss does, I basically have to help him if he, for whatever reason, needed to fall back on me. It's like, okay, don't worry, because I basically shadow you all day. This is what we need to do. So it's basically like helping anywhere within the game show development world.
That's so cool. Well, we'll definitely get into that a little bit more, but first let's rewind it back and let me ask you, where are you originally from? Are you from LA?
Well, so I was born in Mexico. I was born
Okay.
in Juchipila, Zacatecas, Mexico. And my dad and mom, they would migrate back and forth. And it's like a culture in that town or like in that state of Mexico where seasonally people would come to LA and they would go back. And so my dad, he, that's how he met my mom. So he actually grew up here, but he would go back and forth. And so one of those journeys, he actually just met my mom, and I guess they like started dating, and then after like a year or so, they got married, and then they had me. And so we would, even though I was born there, we would always come back and forth until we finally settled in Long Beach.
Wow. Long Beach it is. So,
Yeah.
what inspired you with the entertainment industry? Just being in the influence of living in LA, or what do you think got you really wanting to work in it?
You know, so when we finally moved to Long Beach, it had been probably like 4 or 5 years that we had lived in Mexico, and we would only come and visit. But even though we would come, the language was still my first language was Spanish. And so when we finally moved out here and I started school in third grade, in order for me to learn English, I had to watch a lot of movies, like a lot of Disney movies and a lot of TV shows. And so that's how I learned the culture. That's how I learned to speak English. And so it was not only like the learning English, but it was more of like that sense of security of like, well, you're a kid, you're in third grade, you don't really know what's going on, and you don't know why your parents made you come here, and you kind of have to lose everything that you knew up until then. And so it was kind of like a culture shock for me. but watching movies and just kind of getting immersed in TV shows helped me gain some sort of like that suspension of disbelief was like my nurturing therapy, I guess. And I just like remember feeling like, I don't know, like just like that sense of fantasy and that sense of like anything is possible. Like you can just escape this world that you're in currently was the biggest driver. And so ever since I thought, well, this is something that was pulling me towards that. And I don't know, like just I think I've always been like a really artistic kid and adult, but I never knew it. And it wasn't until like I was just thinking back, like, oh, that's right. I used to really love to paint, and I used to love to draw when I was in elementary school and high school and middle school. And I've always been kind of like swayed towards this industry some way or another.
And here you are, which is really incredible.
Right? It's like that one saying, what you seek is seeking you. So there you go.
There you go. I like that saying. So did you go to school for what you went into? Like, did you go to university? What did you study?
You know what? Actually, no. So growing up, because my mom saw that I was really into like that, I guess acting, that I was into drama, that I was into all these like different artistic things,
Mm-hmm.
she would she would like sign me up for like these like like I don't know if you ever heard of like those schools like where you're like walking at the mall and like this person like approach you and it's like your kid could be a star. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
my
Uh-huh.
mom fell for that and she was like, okay. And I was like, yes, please, mom. Like, I really want to go. And so she got duped into paying like $3,000 for like, I don't know, like every, like a semester of like Saturday classes of learning how to act and how to model. And even though it was just like essentially a school, it was more of, for me, it was like, oh my God, this is how you walk, this is how you talk, this is how you speak. All those little things that I needed help with growing
Mm-hmm.
up. Believe it or not, my mom didn't think so. She was like, that is so expensive. But I thought it was great. And it all honestly like it gave me the confidence to be like, I can go into this industry. However, when I was in college, I actually did not go to a 4 year right away. I went to a community college after Long Beach Poly High School. I went to Mexico and I met my boyfriend, my husband, my boyfriend at the time then, and I dropped out. So I was like, whatever, I can just, I guess I hadn't really found what I wanted to go into. Like, I thought that the entertainment industry was a great dream, but there was never like a set path of like, how do you get into it? What do you do? And is it just acting and directors? Like, I had no idea that there was this like vast, I guess, what's the word? Like that there was other jobs. Like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't necessarily have to just be acting or directing or writing. And so it was just like one of those dreams that are super far fetched. And you're like, I mean, it would be good, but if you don't know how to start, then you just kind of don't know. And that was my case. So anyway, I dropped out of college. I had my son when I was 21, and I started waiting tables. And it wasn't until I got fired for basically standing up for myself that I realized, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, am I gonna be a waitress for the rest of my life? And that's okay if I do want to choose to go down that path. But I remember when I got fired, I was trying to plead my case, and I was talking to the general manager of the restaurant, and I remember him saying like, "You're just a server. Like, why do like, what makes you think that I believe you?" And they completely dismissed my side of the story, and so that even though people are like, "Oh, that guy was so mean," for telling you that, it honestly lit a fire in me. Like, I'm never gonna let somebody disrespect me or try to tell me what it is that I should do with my life. If I choose to go down that path, that's okay. But don't label me into something that's not me. So, and I thought, well, if I have a son, I have a baby, and when he grows up, how can I tell him, well, you need to go to school if I couldn't do it myself? And so that's why I came home. I remember coming home and being like, I'm going to sign up for college again and I'll just figure it out. And the dream of like working in the entertainment industry was still like on the back burner, but it was more of like this, you put you put your livelihood and like trying to be there for others and especially a baby first. And so your dreams kind of, you just put them away, you stow them away, or you throw them away. Some people do. I'm lucky that I didn't throw mine away, that I kind of just like hid it. But anyway, so after I enrolled at Golden West in Huntington Beach, I just wanted to do communication. And the reason why I wanted to do or go for communication studies was because, like I mentioned to you earlier, I'm severely dyslexic. And so I thought, well, if I can somehow understand how communication works from like a study point of view or like a scientific point of view, then I think it'll be easier for me to just know more about myself and be able to speak and communicate better in a way that it helps others. Because communication touches not just like the actual verbal communication, but nonverbal, and we go into like other studies. But then somehow, like when I transferred over to Cal State Long Beach, entertainment just kind of followed me back. And when I was a senior at college, I had the opportunity to meet this amazing woman at this restaurant that I used to work at. And she just randomly asked me, like, what is it that you want to do when you graduate? And I told her, I said, look, I don't know, but I would love to go into entertainment. And she said, I actually work for Screen Gems at Sony Pictures. Like, would you like to come meet this amazing
No
producer?
way.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Like, is this for real? And I remember like her being like, yes, like, it's just, uh, you seem like a great girl. Like, why don't I help you out? Just, I'm not promising you anything, but I think this relationship can help you gain something along the way. So I was like, wow, okay, head over heels. I was so starstruck. Like, I remember calling my mom and crying, being like, oh my God, mom, like this has happened at work. And her being like, that is amazing. Just remember, don't get your hopes up too much because you don't want to get hurt. And I was just like thinking like, I'm gonna be like this
Yeah,
amazing employee
exactly.
at Sony. Like
Uh-huh.
my dream was like I was already there. Um, and I think my mom was just like, take it, just the step by step.
Yep, yep.
So anyway, I came and I met Jolene Rodriguez. By the way, this woman that I met is Jan McCrae, and I owe her everything because if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would be where talking to you. Or
Yeah,
maybe I would, but in a different circumstance. But,
true.
one thing led to another. So anyway, to make the long story short, I met Jolene, and Jolene was someone that kind of helped me get into, script development. And her influence helped one of the recruiters help me apply for supplier diversity.
That is amazing.
So, yeah.
And then, so you worked at Screen Gems. What were you doing exactly at Screen Gems when you were interning
I
for
was
them?
help Yeah, I was helping Jolene do script coverage for any of the scripts that they got. So essentially, I would read the script and I would tell her or give her notes on it. And every studio, I believe, has a different way of or a different template of doing script coverage. But
Yep.
with her, it was a little bit more. Sometimes it would be more formal, and there's times where it would be just very informal. Like, okay, just read it and tell me what you think, and tell me if it's something that you would watch or your family would watch. And a lot of those stories were they involved like Hispanic figures, which was I thought it was good. There were some that I just was like, I don't know, we should go back and rewrite that. But let me tell you, Jackson, I had no idea how to do script coverage. I was just like, sure, I can do it. And then I had to Google the heck out of it. Like, what?
What am
What
I
is script
doing?
coverage?
Uh-huh.
What am I doing? So I was just like, and I had to figure it out. I don't know if the first three notes were good, but they were like, well, okay, great. They never said anything.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Listen, that's the only way to manifest it.
So how long were you at Screen Gems for?
It was just one internship.
Okay, so like just the summer or something?
Yeah.
and then you went over and she introduced you to someone in supplier diversity, and then you interned for them.
Yes. So I applied to go or to be an intern for supplier diversity under Tim Riddell. And Tim was my former boss before Lance. So he's the one that kind of brought me on board. And they were looking for somebody that was really into, I guess, the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion. And even though my background was not in business at all whatsoever, I did tell them like, hey, I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to figure it out and work as much as I need to be able to get this. Because remember, I wanted a job. Like I did not care what it was in. I just wanted to be making money and helping pay the bills.
Yep. And what is, for those who are listening who have no idea, what is supplier diversity and what does it apply to like a studio?
That was my same question when I applied. I was like, what is this? But I figure, supplier diversity, so supplier vendor diversity, many. So essentially, supplier diversity helps in is a business model for procurement departments to be able to diversify the supply chain. So bringing in vendors from marginalized and what's the word? So it's marginalized and more
Oppressed?
oppressed. There you go. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Okay, so yeah, it's women, LGBT, veterans, disabled, and minority. So those are the five different vendors that we would try to introduce to Sony. We would try to set up meetings with different executives throughout the studio. So like anybody that had a budget. So like somebody in motion pictures, marketing motion pictures that maybe needed somebody to come in and help them do like a cut. Or like, hey, we need you to do, I don't know, like VO for this trailer coming out. And so we would look for diverse cutting houses or editing houses. And that's just one service that we would do. We would try to, meet different vendors and just diversify supply chain.
So you interned for them. Did you get like a full-time offer with them, or what happened next?
Yeah, so when I interned, my first internship was extended. So I interned in January 2019. And by the end of the first internship, they asked me, would you like to stay on for the summer? And I was like, yes, of course, absolutely. Where do I sign? HR came in one day and they said, can you set an hour for us to speak with you about what we want to nominate you for? And I was just like, oh my God, am I going to get fired? And I had no idea what this was. And I think Tim, my former boss, did. I think he was just like, yeah, you'll like this, go. So I go in and they show me this, they could basically play this video for me. And it's like the sizzle of like, this is what Academy Gold is from the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences. And I think I was mostly shocked, like, why me? And is this real? So anyway, yeah, they only selected 3 interns out of like 100 interns from Sony. And
Wow.
so what they did was every studio sent their best 3, I guess. I don't know what was the criteria. I think they were just like, bring in the Mexican girl. Just kidding, I don't know. I think, it was this initiative that all of those big studios did with partnership, or they did, it was a partnership with the Academy Gold. It was a partnership with the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences, and they were trying to do this diverse initiative. And so every studio paid probably like $10,000. So because they paid those $10,000, they were sending 3 of their interns. The cool thing was that I got to meet different interns from all the different studios. And the most amazing thing is that we were all so alike and so like-minded. Like I have never had a cohort where we're just all instantly became friends. Instantly. And we all are like dreamers and we want to make it, it's not even making it big. It's like we just want to show
Make an
what we have
impact.
to the world. Make an impact. Perfect. Like that's exactly it. And everybody's just trying to help each other and there's not, you don't really feel like like somebody's trying to one up you and they're looking down on you. It's more of a it's very communal. It's a the cool thing about that program is that you didn't have to have a prerequisite to join, I guess, just be an intern for a studio.
Yep.
But what they really focused on was cinematography, directing, writing, producing, marketing for motion pictures, casting, HR, what else? The actual like technical part of cinematography and directing. So like down to like the lenses and what type of lenses and what those lenses meant to like different visions and different cinematographers. And we got to see them. And so, seeing them and understanding like the different curvature and like the anamorphic lenses are, made this way because cinematographers and filmmakers have a different vision. It kind of like you see it from like that perspective of like, oh, I get it now. Where before it's just a vision of you think but it's like how could you if you've never, you know, been given that exposure? So that really helps solidify.
I was just gonna say that's an awesome experience, like to just get a whole
Jackson,
breadth of everything.
it was the most rewarding experience in my, I guess, in my like 20s. It really was.
That's so cool that Sony picked you of all the people, and even though you may think oh, a diversity pick or whatever, but like you got to experience that, and that's incredible.
Yeah, no, and I joke around. I'm like, oh, sure, but I guess there's like a little bit of imposter syndrome where it's me, and I think like, but why me? Like what did I do to this or this? Like maybe there's better qualified people, but I don't let it take away from the experience of like I didn't value it. Like I'm so grateful, and I'm not gonna let it go to waste. Like I wouldn't be the person to be like, well, they chose me, but I didn't really care for it. Like, no, I took it and I ran with it.
And then when you were there, like going to these classes and stuff, where you were like sitting there, like pinching yourself, being like, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Pinch me moment.
The whole time, I think I had a hole on my arm. Like it was to the point where I was taking pictures a lot, and I thought I'm gonna probably get kicked out. But to see the Oscar statues and to see where it all comes to life, or like even down to the museum, because they have a museum where
Yep.
all the filmmakers come and like submit, I think it's like the museum on the west side. I forgot the name of it, but
I think it's just the Academy Museum, right? Right there on Olympic. I could be really wrong.
that's the new one.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So before, I think it was like there was this building off of somewhere in Beverly,
Mhm.
but it was like a library almost, if you will, and you can search and look through all the scripts and all the submissions and all the different things,
Wow.
and you get to learn a lot. Like, oh wow, one of the first LGBT, I guess, the movies that you can kind of like look back and be like, oh, definitely, like it was inspired because of the LGBT community, was like The Wizard of Oz, and
Oh,
so
interesting. So that's really cool. So you do these two internships, and then were you offered a full-time job with Supplier Diversity, or where did you go after these internships?
I got a full-time offer with Supplier Diversity at Sony, and I stayed there for about 2 years, 2.5 years before making my jump over to Gameshow development.
And was that during COVID, or how did that all play out?
I got a full-time offer in 2020, the start of 2020.
Wow.
So I think it was 4 months before we closed the studio because of COVID. So most of that big chunk was work virtual.
That's crazy.
It was crazy.
So explain to me kind of what emerging professional is it, and how they impact Sony Pictures as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. So Emerging Professionals is this employee business resource group that aims to bring the juniors or the emerging professionals from the studio into this one big cohort, and and emerging professionals essentially aims to bring resources and bring opportunities to those who are seeking how to like move up within Sony Pictures.
And you do this on the side of your job. It's not like your job is part of this or whatever.
No, I do this because I love it, and I really do love. I love to help people because I've been helped by so many people around the studio. So, in a way, it's kind of like giving back and feeling good about seeing your peers move up, and in a way, you kind of move up with them too.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. And so you joined their board, and this is while you're working in the supplier diversity team, and you were on the marketing side. And then how long were you with supplier diversity for?
I think it was like close to 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. And then were you kind of just like over it, or did someone approach you? How did you jump to game shows?
Um, have you ever felt like, you're in a role and you can do it well and you like it, but you know deep down that you've kind of capped out and you're like, I've learned everything that you want to learn, right? Because there's a lot to keep learning, but you kind of feel like, well, I've learned everything that I possibly can. And then at the same time, I thought, I feel like somebody with more passion to this will come and run with it. And maybe I'm stalling and I'm taking away that spot from someone else when I know my heart is somewhere else now. So that's when I started seeking for what I've always wanted to seek for, like the creative process.
And so did you just cold reach outreach, or did you have like a meet and greet? How did you know, did the role just pop up?
Mm, in a way, but I think I manifested it in a weird way, Jackson. Like, so I had been applying for, for development jobs, and a lot of the development jobs, you kind of have to come in as an assistant. Like, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to know how everything works, and the only way to know how everything works in one given team is by being their assistant, because that's how you get to see everything, and you get to learn who the key players are. You get to know who the producers are, who the first, like all the deals, all the things coming in and out, all the creative projects, all the things being sold, so you get to see everything. So I had been applying. I applied for HBO Max, I applied for Disney, I applied for Netflix, and I had all these interviews, and I got like the interviews, but I never got like that third interview where it solidified it and was like, yes, you got this. And even though I kept getting bummed out, it was more of like a callous, like, okay, I got this, it's fine, it's not a big deal. And so when finally actually, no, I'm going to take it a step back. So I applied for Peter Kane's desk. So Peter Kane is one of the executives for Columbia Pictures. He's, I believe, EVP for production. And I had reached out to our head P&O HR executive. I just cold emailed her. I said, hey, Edie, I would love for you to help me out. Like, I've been working at this department, but I think, actually, I don't think, I know that my heart is somewhere else and I really need your help. Like, I, I've been, like, I have experience from doing this, and on the weekends I help my friends produce their films, and I read notes and I do script coverage, and like I basically laid out everything that I had already worked on, or everything that I had experience with, everything that I had helped my friends with, basically. And even though it wasn't paid, it was experience. So anyway, she said, well, I'm happy that somebody has like the courage to email me, because we need more people like that, like people that are willing to take that like leap of faith, like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble, or I don't know if it's going to look bad, but I'm going to take a risk and email this person. So she said, okay, I'm going to help you out, but I'm letting you know it's not going to be easy, because being an assistant, it's not like people think it's easy, but it's not.
So true.
So she's the one. Yeah, and I had never been an assistant, so I had no idea. I was just like, sure, that's fine. I'm pretty sure I can do it. But I was so wrong. I mean, I can do it, but it's so hard. So anyway, So she sent my resume out to Peter King, and so I had one interview with the creative executive for Peter's desk, and I interviewed, and then 2 weeks later, they reached out and said, "We're actually going with someone that has experience as an assistant." So I was like, "Okay, whatever, bummed out." But I'm thinking like, how can I become an assistant if I need the experience for being an assistant? Like, whatever. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, what? But anyway, so one of the recruiters like saw how bummed out I was, but I was just kind of willing to push through. And she said, "Hey, if there's a development role popping up, like, do you want me to keep you like updated on it?" And I was just like, "Yes, please." I mean, I have no idea how. I have no experience in game show, but I thought, well, every show has to have a beginning, middle, and end, right? And there's always a story to some show. Like, you want viewers, and viewers are gonna. There's always that arc, whether it's self-contained or whether it's like a whole arc series. And I was like, well, what? I have nothing to lose, and I applied, and 2 months later, they were like, "All right, you got it." I was like, "What?" Yeah.
And so you're now working for game show development. What does like your day to day look like? Are you just jumping from meeting to meeting? Are you on phone calls, answering calls for people, grabbing lunch for people? Like, what does that look like for you?
So I had this idea of what an assistant was, right? Like, I thought, well, you have to go get coffee if they ask you for coffee, or like, do you go and what do you do? Like, I had no idea. And when my bosses, when I started, they never really told me what they wanted. Like, it was more of like, "All right, here you go." So a lot of it was learning how to, what is it that they like, and over communicate. But I was so nervous because I thought they probably think like you should know what to do, but I didn't. It's just so different, like every single day is different. There's days when we're just going from meeting to meeting. There's days when we have creative meetings for like 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, and we'll just ideate and create, and we'll just develop and beat out this project. There's times where we have to go to pitches, and we have to go to different studios, or the studios come to us. And so when the pitches require other like team members to come and help with the different like production from the pitches, I have to be there and essentially be like the sound person, or be the visual person, or the whatever it is that they need me to do. There's times where like we'll just be watching dailies and giving notes, watching pitch decks and giving notes, passing on decks, passing on, maybe even like calling people and saying, "Hey, we like what you have. Like, come in again for a second pitch," or a lot of generals. So generals, essentially, what they are is the agents. They'll contact the producers, or a lot of the executives at these in these development roles, and it's a way for them to meet their clients. And that way the executives know, like, okay, this is what that agent's client does, and let's keep it in a contact log. So it's a way for us to track what's going on out there, and who's who, and who's pitching to what, and who's meeting different executives.
So I don't know if you can talk about this, and if you're like, nope, let's move on, say let's move on. But so how do you go about like developing a new game show? What's like that process like? Is it someone coming in saying, I've got an idea to, revolutionaries game shows, or how does that even someone think of an idea, or how does it go about?
There's a lot of different ways. Surprisingly, there's like, so yeah, people can come in, and their agents will set it up, and they'll say, "Hey, we have so and so who wants to pitch this great idea." And so we'll be like, "Okay, great." Then we'll set it up, and they'll come in, and they'll have like a whole pitch. Like, this is what like they'll just have like their whole like spiel, like, I have this idea for like, I don't know, I'm just making this up, like dating, or like I have this idea for like this game show where like people kind of like everything is basically already been pitched, but it's just different iterations
Iterations.
to it. Yeah. So we have that. Then we also have first looks, which is it's deals that we have with certain executives or certain producers that they have to develop shows for Sony, and all of the development that they do, whether we buy it or not, it's owned by Sony. If we pass on it, then they go and sell it to different studios. But first, they have to fully develop it, and then we go out and pitch it to networks. And if every network passes and it doesn't get sold, we essentially own not the title, but the development rights. So they have to develop it a different way.
Interesting. And how many game shows does Sony own? Like,
Oh my God, we own a lot.
really?
Yeah.
What are some of them major ones that Sony owns?
So the two iconic and legacy ones obviously is going to be Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. We also have 100,000 Pyramid. We have international formats like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. We have, I should know this. There's so many. There's so many. We own Rig the Cage. We own Jackpot. And these are a lot of like shows that were so popular in the 90s and 80s and 70s, but we that they're still being developed in modern times, or for modern time, for modern for modern times. There we go.
And
Sorry.
here's a question for you. So, have you ever heard of the game show America Says?
Hmm.
Did you know that I was a contestant on that show?
Really?
Yeah,
No
and we
way.
won.
How much did you win?
$16,000, I think. Not each, but our team.
No way.
Yeah, you'll have to like see if you can go through the archives or whatever and find
I'm going to.
my episode.
Oh my God. I wonder who does America Says own? Like who owns it?
I think Sony
I'm gonna
does.
find out.
Well, it's part
Does
of
it?
Game Show
Do we
Networks.
own it? Oh, America Says. When you went on it, was it on DSN?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, then it probably, yeah. Then Sony owns it. Oh my God, how cool is that?
So my team was the Pickleball Pals, and we played the Painting Gals, which I guess their team name was also Painting Pals, but they changed it last second and they were the Painting Gals. And
Oh my
yeah,
God.
we won.
That's so awesome. That is so freaking cool. Well, listen, if you have any ideas for game shows and you want to come and pitch,
Okay.
you have a door open.
Okay. Perfect. And anyone listening, hit up Karla if
There you go.
have a great
Yeah,
idea for a game show.
there you go. And you know what? What I learned from one of the consultants who come in basically do like game show workshops. And one of them I remember clearly was like making kids plays, but big. So think of like the floor is lava. It's a kids game, right? But then they shushed it up and then made it super big. What else? There, I would have to like show you the whole list, but they really broke it down in a way that made sense, where it's like, oh my God, it's essentially the games that that we kind of grew up with, but then they add all these different mechanics for TV. And so it seems like it's so different and so elaborate. But if you strip it back down to its core, it's a lot of the game shows are kids games,
Yeah, no,
and I have
that's
no
really
idea.
cool. No, I think that's genius. No, like everybody would get the premise. They already know all the rules. They don't need to have it
Yeah.
explained, which is awesome. So let me ask you this. What are some of like your favorite best parts about working in the entertainment industry as a whole?
It's the fact that you're in this group, or in this like you're part of this community, that you don't necessarily have to box yourself into one to one genre or one mode of like entertainment. So it doesn't necessarily, just because I'm working in game show for television or for prime time, doesn't mean that I can't go into film if I really wanted to. Or it doesn't mean that if you're working in scripted, that you can't go over to unscripted. So what I'm trying to say is that, for example, if I have an idea that it's not necessarily unscripted and it's more like a short and it's an animation, I can network and I can talk to the people that make that, and I can, in a way, it's easier for me to make it happen than if I was outside of this industry. And that's the best thing for me. That in a way, by working in anywhere in Sony, you kind of like have those possibilities, and sometimes we take it for granted. Like sometimes we think like, oh, I just work in this division, but we forget that we're already inside. Like once you're inside, you're inside, and it's up to us to really like network and make it happen, and kind of like we're kind of like our own entrepreneurs, right? Like we have to think like, okay, if I really want this idea to come to life, then I have to make it happen. And that's how producers are. That's how like a lot of executives are. They have to go out and sell. And so when you see it from that perspective, it becomes more of like for me, I'm grateful. So
Yeah, no, I think that, you're selling it to me. But
well, think about it. Like we're inside already,
yeah, the
and
door's already open.
the door's already opened. We're we have the ability to network with not just like Sony Pictures or Sony Pictures Television or Sony Pictures Motion Picture, but it's also like with anybody essentially already in, and the people that they know and other studios. Because once you're already in a studio, it's kind of like your doors open for other studios.
Yeah, exactly. But, there's sunshine and rainbows everywhere, but then some days there's rainy and cloudy and sad days. What would you say is like your biggest struggle with the industry as a whole?
I think it has to do a lot with my personality. So for me, some of the struggles that I would say I face more in this industry is that sometimes people that are more outgoing, or sometimes people that have less of that imposter syndrome, that maybe they do have it, but it doesn't show. They're the ones that kind of move up. And if and I feel like you have to be an extrovert in this industry to be able to move up as fast as your peers. If you're not, and you're somehow like somebody that holds back, then maybe this is not just in the industry, maybe this is everywhere else, but this is where I'm seeing it. And so the struggles could also be like not seeing a lot of people like yourself. Maybe like for me, it's like internal struggles, like having an accent, or maybe like battling with like not being able to say the words that I want to say whenever I want to say them, and especially like in a meeting setting where it's like you don't want that to happen. So that's my struggle. Like that's my personal struggle. But I think like as a whole, navigating ethical rights and wrongs, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, okay. I like that. I would say, based on my experience when I met you working at Sony together, I never felt that you had imposter syndrome. You were the biggest ray of sunshine I have met
Really?
at Sony. Yeah, I'm being serious. I think like you brought so much energy to that team. Like you were part of an all-star rock star team when I first met you anyway, so it was like I never
Oh.
felt that you were like nervous or afraid. If anything, like, you know, you were that person that was very outgoing on the procurement team.
Oh my God. I guess sometimes I have to compensate by being not being extra friendly, because I'm already like that and I know that that's who I am. But I don't know, like maybe, but I just feel like sometimes I'm not, or I feel like I have to try to be like that because I feel like I'm not as,
I don't know.
you
I
know,
feel like we all get that way sometimes.
I think so. And I think it's just getting over that little hump. And maybe, who knows, maybe in 5 years it'll be a different struggle,
Yeah. No,
right?
totally. Okay. So let's see. Have you, if you can talk about this, are there any cool projects or anything fun that you're working on that you'd like to highlight in the show?
We just finished filming 100,000 Pyramid, and it should be airing sometime in the summer. And so it was really cool. Like it was really cool seeing it live because it's just like when you're seeing it on TV. So that's going to be coming out in the summer and in the holiday 2023. Let's see what else. What are we working on that I could speak on? Oh yeah, we're trying to what we're trying to do in Game Show is that we're trying to find ways to merge the IP, to find ways to gamify, like like some of our biggest IP, like Breaking Bad, finding ways to gamify like Jumanji or like Spider-Man or like even PlayStation projects.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I think that's a great idea.
I think so too. I think we're learning a lot from like Netflix. You know how like they did Squid Games,
Yep.
and then now there's going to be like an actual life, like a real life Squid Games.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so let's say the person who is listening to this show right now is a waiter or a waitress who's so like dreams of working in the entertainment industry and is just struggling to find their way in. What advice would you give to them right now?
So going back to that one saying, what you seek is seeking you, and I'm a firm believer because sooner or later, like you start to manifest what you really want to, what you're really like seeking, what your heart's really desiring. But what I will say is, if you really want to go into this industry, don't be afraid to network. Like, don't be afraid to ask somebody, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to meet with people. If they say no, then that's one no, and whatever, and you keep it pushing. But I think if you really want this, you'll find a way to find your door. And I then we have LinkedIn. You can like look up people if you want to work for a certain like company. Like a lot of my friends wanted to work for Netflix. I would tell them, well, then go on LinkedIn and just try to like connect with these people and ask them if they want to go on like a 15-minute Zoom chat. And so a lot of them did it, and a lot of them actually got to meet some people. So I think it's finding those people already in, and then just working your magic.
Yeah, I actually had someone reach out to me a couple years ago, and he was a USC student in PR or whatever, and I had no idea who he was. Just randomly reached out to me on LinkedIn and was like, "Hey, can I pick your brain about the industry? I really want to work in it. I know like I may seem like a random person, but I just really want to make it in entertainment." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure."
Oh, oh,
And I talked to him, gave him my, thoughts and advice, and now he just accepted a job at Warner Brothers, I think, which is incredible.
wow.
Like he
Yeah.
just same thing like you said, he all he wanted was wanted to be part of the industry and he just got a job, which is super
Hmm.
exciting.
And then I think one tip is like if somebody's asking, like going back to what you said, like they can reach out to us, and I feel like a lot of people that I know will kind of just ignore those messages, but you never know who these people are going to be. So I just think like just always be nice to everybody because you never know, like somebody that's like coming up the ladder could soon be your boss. Or, you just never know because everybody is moving constantly within this industry. And so if somebody's trying to get in, they'll find their way.
Yeah, great point, great point. And then one last question I have for you is, so let's go 5, 6, 7 years ago before you got in, did you like could you imagine where you are now when you were standing up for yourself in that restaurant? If you had like this "that's so Raven" moment where you're like you see the future of yourself now, like would you just lose your mind?
I think so. Yeah. I had no idea. Because it was a dream. It was more of like, it was like, oh my God, it's like, what if I won the lottery and I won the $1 million? And then it actually happening. And I think I got more lucky than that. So, yeah, I didn't think I was going to ever be here, but I guess I never lost faith and here I am. And we'll see what happens in the next 5 years.
But
Maybe
yeah.
you and I are going to be like having coffee in like some private jet, you know?
And we'll just be
Who knows?
laughing
We're like,
about
yeah, I'm
those
just
good times.
right.
And I guess this made me think of one last question for you is where, like, what's the end goal for you? Where would you love to be in your, like, you could just sit back at the end of the day and be like, I can't believe I did this. I made it. Is it in development, a producer?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little secret. I'm actually working on a
This isn't much
like
of
a
a
short,
secret anymore than if you're saying it now.
right? Well, it's something that I guess I haven't really told my peers, but it's something that I'm trying to do anyway. So the more that I put it out there, I think the more I'll just keep doing it and keep working on it. So I've been working on this story and I've been working on this like animated short. And it's more of like how, like when you watch a Pixar movie and it's got like the shorts before the actual movie, kind of like Bow, like Piper,
Yep, yep.
So I'm working on a short like that.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like my sister and I were working and we were trying to write out the story, so we were beating the outline. The only problem is that I have no idea how I would write an animated short with no dialogue because there's no dialogue. And so anyway, we were just trying to figure it out. We were trying to beat out the story. And when we finally got the perfect ending, because we had been trying to figure out like, well, what's the right way for it to end? Because you want to give a good message,
Yep.
right? And we found that right moment. Like we were almost laughing, crying hysterically. We were like, we got it. And we started talking and we were like, imagine if when we actually get this done, like if we actually do this to the best of our ability and somehow this gets submitted to the Academy and we get nominated for like, I don't know, best short,
Yes.
animated
Yeah.
short. And then, oh my God, imagine if we actually win. And we were just laughing. We were like, could that ever be a reality?
That would
I
be
don't
cool.
know. I mean,
You never know. You never
things,
know in these days.
yeah, you never know. And here's the thing, it's not so much about winning the Oscar or winning something like that, but it's more of like this project and like the beauty of it leads you to something else. And then that something else leads you to something else. And so I think that one, like, when I would finally like lean back and say, okay, I did it, I think it would be this project because it's been a passion of mine that I've been having for like half a year now. And so when it's finally completed, whether it goes on any festival run or not, I think just seeing of it and seeing the impact that it might have on people, it'll just be the best thing for me.
Well, let me know when you're about to release it. I'd love to watch it.
Well, listen, if you know any animators that maybe know how to write, I don't even know if it's the script. Like, is it the storyboard first, or I don't even know where to start. So if you know anybody that wants to help me out,
Okay.
please send them my way.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
So
Cool.
that's that.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been so interesting and awesome to learn about, your background coming as like from a waiter. You're truly the LA dream.
Yeah, that's true. And it wasn't just any like fancy restaurant. It was a Buffalo Wild Wings, by the way. So
Amazing. Even more of an inspiring story. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show and telling your story. I loved hearing about it. And, hopefully one day I can put in the banner, Academy Award winning.
can you imagine?
That would be pretty awesome. Well,
I would be like, we made it
yeah,
happen.
exactly.
We manifested it, Jackson.
Exactly. Well, for those at home, please, please, please subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on a podcast, please follow on, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, and, tell your friends about it. I think that's how it really grows. And if, somebody who's wanting to make it in the industry, but they don't know how, send them this show and hopefully they can make an impact and be on my show one day. So thank you so much, Karla, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.